The rain hammered the old slate roof of the Hawthorne family chapel like it was trying to drown out the eulogies. But nothing could wash away the sting of Amos Hawthorne's final words. Ziona's Hawthorne, Zion to those who bothered to remember, sat in the back pew, his knuckles white against the polished oak, as the lawyer's voice cut through the murmur of black-clad mourners. To my grandsons, Carter and Dylan Hawthorne, I bequeath the entirety of my estate. The Hawthorne Mill, the seaside cottage in Haven Point, and all savings accrued from a lifetime of quiet labor. Zion breath caught, a sharp inhale that tasted like salt and betrayal, because he knew what came next, or rather what didn't. His name. Not a whisper of it. Just the echo of the twins' names. Those golden boys who'd always been the normal ones. The ones Grandpa Amos had paraded like trophies at every family gathering. Zion's eyes burned, not from the tears he refused to let fall, but from the weight of 28 years spent chasing a ghost of approval in this fog-shrouded corner of Maine. Haven Point hadn't changed since he was a kid. The lobster boats bobbing in the harbor like forgotten toys, the clapboard houses pizziong under perpetual damp, the air thick with the scent of pine and regret. He'd driven up from Seattle 2 days ago, trading the relentless hum of coffee shops and startup pitches for this. A funeral that felt more like an execution. Carter and Dylan sat up front, shoulders squared in identical navy suits, their blonde heads bowed just enough to look pious. Twins, through and through, 26, straight as the Atlantic's horizon, with wives already picked out from the local stock and futures in real estate that would turn Grandpa's mill into condos for summer folk. Normal. The word slithered through Zion's mind like a knife, carving out the parts of him that had never fit. As the lawyer folded the will with a crisp snap, Aunt Marjorie turned in her seat, her lipstick-smeared smile a brittle shield. Zion dear, it's all for the best. Amos always said family legacy goes to those who carry it forward the right way. The right way. Zion's jaw clenched. He'd carried it forward in his own way, coming out at 17, the summer after Grandpa's annual clambake, when the old man had just nodded and poured him a whiskey neat, saying nothing but everything in that silence. Or so Zion had thought. Now, staring at the twins' smug profiles, he wondered if that nod had been pity, not pride. The service ended in a shuffle of hymnals and condolences, and Zion slipped out the side door before the receiving line could swallow him whole. The rain soaked his shirt in seconds, but he welcomed it. The cold bite against his skin a small mercy compared to the ache blooming in his chest. He walked the half-mile to the Hawthorne cottage, boots squelching on the gravel path that wound past salt marshes and weathered docks. Haven Point was a postcard of faded glory. Population 1,247. Give or take a seasonal influx of artists pretending to find themselves. Zion had fled it at 18 for the anonymity of the West Coast, where being gay was just another Tuesday, not a scandal whispered over potlucks. But death had a way of re-Zioning you back, like a hooked cod fighting the line. The cottage loomed ahead, its widow's walk sagging under ivy, the porch light flickering like a dying firefly. Carter's truck was already parked out front, a gleaming Ford that screamed compensation. Zion paused at the gate, hand on the rusted latch, to Zion himself. Inside, the will would be gospel and he was the heretic. Pushing through the door, the warmth hit him like a slap. Cinnamon from Aunt Marjorie's apple pie, the faint brine of the sea seeping through cracks. The living room was a shrine to Amos. Faded photos of the mill in its heyday, shelves groaning with dog-eared paperbacks and carved decoys. The old man's pipe still perched on the mantel like it expected him back any minute. Carter and Dylan lounged on the plaid sofa, beers in hand, their laughter a low rumble that died when Zion entered. "Hey, man," Carter said, raising his bottle in a half-toast. "Rough day, huh?" Grandpa went out on his terms. Dylan nodded, his blue eyes mirror images of Zion's own, a cruel genetic joke, flickering with something like guilt. Or was it triumph? "Yeah, Zion, we're all torn up, but life's gotta go on, right? We're thinking of keeping the cottage as a family spot, for weekends." Zion's laugh was a hollow bark, echoing off the shiplap walls. "Family spot, cute. Guess that excludes the black sheep." He shrugged off his coat, water pooling at his feet, and headed for the kitchen without waiting for their protest. The fridge hummed like an old friend, stocked with Amos's staples. Local ale, cheddar sharp as regret, leftover chowder that smelled of home. He cracked a bottle, the fizz a small rebellion, and leaned against the counter, listening to the twins' voices filter in. planning, always planning. The mill would fetch a fortune. The cottage, renovated, could be an Airbnb goldmine. Zion swigged deep, the bitterness grounding him. He'd come out here expecting closure, maybe a quiet goodbye to the man who'd taught him to tie knots and read the tides. Instead, he got erasure. Aunt Marjorie bustled in, her floral dress a clash against the somber day. Zion, honey, don't sulk. Amos loved you, in his way. He just understood what the world needs more of. She patted his arm, her rings cold. Boys like Carter and Dylan, they'll make babies. Keep the name going. Zion grip tightened on the bottle. And what about boys like me, Aunt Mar? Do we just fade out? Like bad ink on a letter? She blinked, flustered, and retreated to the living room, leaving him with the ghosts. He wandered to Grandpa's study, the door ajar, the room a time capsule of oak desk and leather-bound ledgers. The air smelled of pipe tobacco and salt air, and for a moment, Zion could almost hear the old man's gravelly chuckle. He sank into the armchair, the one Amos had favored for late-night stories, and let his head fall back. Tomorrow, he'd drive back to Seattle, to his loft apartment and the barista who smiled too wide, to a life that fit but never quite warmed. But tonight, Haven Point held him captive, its tendrils of memory wrapping tight. The clock ticked past midnight when Zion heard the floorboards creak. He stirred, half dozing, to find Dylan in the doorway, silhouette framed by the hallway lamp. "Can't sleep?" Dylan asked, voice soft, almost tentative. Zion sat up, rubbing his eyes. "Not with the ghosts rattling around." Dylan hesitated, then crossed the room, perching on the desk's edge. Up close, the twinship was uncanny. The same jawline, the same hawthorn height, but Dylan's eyes held a flicker Zion rarely saw in Carter's. Curiosity, maybe even doubt. "Look, Zion, this will stuff. It's not like we asked for it. Grandpa just, he always talked about legacy, you know? Bloodlines and all that old-school crap." Zion snorted. "Old school? Yeah, that's Amos. Hiding behind traditions like they were lighthouse beams." Dylan shifted, uncomfortable. He wasn't perfect, but he wasn't blind either. "Remember that summer, the clam bake? When you told him, he didn't flinch." Zion's throat tightened. "Didn't flinch, but didn't fight for me either. Today proved that." Dylan looked away, toward the window where rain streaked the glass like tears. "Maybe there's more. He left a box for you, said to give it after the reading. Carter didn't want to bother. But..." He trailed off, pulling a small wooden chest from under the desk, its lid etched with waves. Zion's heart stuttered. The chest was familiar, the one Grandpa had kept fishing lures in, back when Zion was small enough to sit on his knee. Dylan slid it across. "Open it when you're ready." "And Zion? I'm sorry. For all of it." He stood, clapping Zion's shoulder. A gesture too genuine for twins who'd always played at perfection, then vanished into the hall. Alone again, Zion traced the chest's carvings, fingers trembling. Inside, a tarnished pocket watch, a bundle of letters tied with twine, and a single envelope sealed with wax, addressed in Amos's spidery hand. "For Ziona's, when the tide turns." The watch ticked faintly, as if urging him on, but Zion set it aside, heart pounding. The letters were brittle, yellowed correspondence from decades ago, postmarked from Boston, Portland. He untied the twine, unfolding the top one, dated 1952. "My dearest Amos, the nights here in the city are endless without you. Remember the cove, our secret? Hold it close, love. Yours, J." Zion breath hitched. "J. Jonah? No." The handwriting was elegant, not Grandpa's blunt scrawl. He rifled through. More from J, fragments of a life hidden in plain sight. Dances in smoky bars, stolen weekends in seaside inns. A love that defied the era's iron rules. His hands shook as he reached the envelope, breaking the seal. Inside, a single sheet, ink fresh as yesterday. "Zion, my boy, if you're reading this, I've gone to the tide. The will is a lie, a shield for the twins and their mother's expectations. But you, Zionas, you carry the real hawthorn fire, the one I buried deep. I was like you once, loving fierce in shadows. Jay was my Jonah, lost to the war, but his letters kept me whole. I left everything to Carter and Dylan to keep peace. But the true legacy is yours. The mill's deed, hidden in the watch's back. Claim it not for spite, but for truth. Love as you are, unapologetic. Forgive an old man his cowardice. Yours always, Grandpa Amos. Tears blurred the words, hot and unbidden. Zion clutched the paper, the room spinning with revelations. Grandpa, the pillar of Haven Point propriety, had lived the lie Zion feared most. Loving men in a world that demanded straight lines. The watch's back unscrewed with a click, revealing a folded deed, the mill's title in his name. But more than property, it was absolution, a bridge across the chasm of silence. Dawn crept in, gray light filtering through lace curtains, and Zion sat there, the chest open like a wound finally aired. The twins would rage, the town would whisper, but for the first time, Haven Point felt like home. Not a cage, but a harbor. Zion didn't sleep after that. The letter burned in his pocket like a live coal as he slipped out at first light, the cottage still hushed under its blanket of fog. Haven Point stirred slowly, fishermen hauling traps at the dock, the bakery's oven belching warmth-scented smoke, seagulls doubling Zion like accusatory spirits. He needed air, space to let the words settle, so he took the path to Blackthorn Cove. Their cove, Amos and Jonah's, if the letters held truth. The trail was overgrown, brambles snagging his jeans like insistent memories, but Zion pushed on, boots crunching shells and pine needles. The sea crashed below, relentless, a rhythm that matched the thud in his chest. At the overlook, he paused, wind whipping his hair, and pulled out the letter again. Love as you are. Simple words, but they cracked something open in him, a fissure where doubt had rooted deep. Back at the cottage by 8, the kitchen buzzed with activity. Aunt Marjorie clattered pans, frying bacon that sizzled like suppressed fury, while Carter nursed coffee, scrolling listings on his phone. Dylan hovered by the window, gaze distant, as if he'd glimpsed the chest's secrets in Zion's eyes. Morning sunshine? Carter drawled, not looking up. You look like hell. Rough night communing with the dead. Zion ignored the jab, pouring coffee black as his mood. The deed weighed heavy in his jacket, a talisman he wasn't ready to wield. Something like that. Found some old junk in the study. Grandpa's ghosts don't quit easy. Marjorie turned, spatula in hand, her face a mask of forced cheer. Well, eat up, boys. We've got arrangements to make. The mill's appraisal is tomorrow. Carter's got a buyer lined up from Portland. Zion Fork paused midair, bacon forgotten. Appraisal? It's barely been a day. Carter shrugged, finally meeting his eyes with that easy confidence that always grated. Time waits for no man, Zion. Or ghost. Besides, Grandpa would have wanted it efficient. Legacy and all. The word legacy twisted like a knife, and Zion set his fork down. Zion berate. Funny you mention that. Turns out, he had a different idea of legacy. Dylan's head snapped up, a warning in his glance, but Carter leaned forward, intrigued despite himself. Oh yeah? Spill. Zion hesitated, the room thick with unspoken lines. Telling them now would shatter the fragile morning, invite the storm. But silence had cost too much already. He slid the letter across the table, the paper whispering like a confession. Carter snatched it, scanning with a frown that deepened into confusion, then fury. What the hell is this? Some prank. Dylan read over his shoulder, color draining from his face. Marjorie peered, then gasped, hand to her pearls. Amos. No, he couldn't have. But the words were there, black on white. The hidden love, the deception, the bequest to Zion. Carter crumpled the edge, voice rising. This changes nothing. The will was read, it's legal. You think a sob story overrides that? Zion pulse thrummed, calm settling like sea glass after a wave. It's not a story, Carter. It's truth. And the deed's right here. He placed it beside the letter, the official stamp gleaming. Silence fell, broken only by the bacon's dying sputter. Dylan broke it first, voice low. Carter, wait. Grandpa. He planned this. For Zion. Carter whirled on him, betrayal flashing. You're taking his side? After everything we've done for this family. The twins' unity cracked, a fault line Zion had never seen, and it stunned him into stillness. Marjorie sank into a chair, murmuring prayers under her breath, but her eyes held a dawning sorrow, not for the money, but for the man she'd thought she knew. Amos hid so much, she whispered. All those years alone after Grandma passed. I thought it was grief. Zion reached across, tentative, squeezing her hand. It was, and more. He loved fierce Aunt March, just like he loved us. All of us, crooked or straight. The argument simmered into a truce of sorts, Carter storming out to think, Dylan lingering with apologies that felt genuine. Zion escaped to the porch, the swing creaking under him as he watched the harbor. Haven Point unfolded below, the mill's silhouette against the sky, gears silent now but humming in memory. That's when he saw him, Finn Riley hauling crates from a skiff, his broad shoulders rolling with easy grace. Finn had been a year ahead in high school, the quiet artist type who'd sketch tide pools instead of chasing girls. Zion remembered stolen glances in the art room, a brush of hands over charcoal that lingered too long. Finn looked up, spotting him, and waved, a simple arc that tugged at something dormant in Zion's chest. By noon, the cottage emptied. Marjorie to the church for prayers, the twins to Portland for legal consults that Zion doubted would stick. He wandered down to the docks, drawn by the pull of familiarity, the need for neutral ground. Finn was mending nets in his boathouse, sleeves rolled to elbows, forearms corded from years on the water. Zion Hawthorne, he said, straightening with a grin that crinkled his green eyes. Heard about Amos. Sorry, man. He was salt of the earth. Zion leaned against the doorframe, the scent of tar and fish-a-bomb. Earth and secrets. Turns out he had more layers than an onion. Finn chuckled, low and warm. Don't we all? You sticking around? Or just passing through like a nor'easter? They talked then, easy as the tide, about Seattle's rain versus Maine's, the gallery Finn ran in town, the way Haven Point chewed you up if you let it. Zion found himself unspooling the letter's thread. Not the drama, but the ache. A grandfather's hidden heart mirroring his own. Finn listened, nodding, his gaze steady. Sounds like Amos gave you the Real inheritance. Not bricks and mortar, truth. Zion swallowed, the words landing soft. Yeah, but truth's a heavy load alone. Finn set the net aside, wiping hands on his jeans. Who says alone? Come by the gallery later. I've got a bottle of Amos's favorite rye stashed. For old times. The afternoon blurred into sketches of normalcy. Zion helping at the mill's office, sorting ledgers that whispered of Grandpa's meticulous hand. A walk through the marshes where cattails whispered secrets to the wind. By dusk, he found himself at Riley's gallery, a converted lighthouse keeper's shack strung with fairy lights, walls alive with Finn's paintings, seascapes in bruised purples, figures caught in liminal glows. Finn poured rye into mismatched glasses, the amber liquid catching furzyonct. To hidden coves, he toasted, clinking Zion. The burn went down smooth, loosening knots Zion hadn't known were there. They sat on the gallery's deck, overlooking the breakwater, stars pricking the velvet sky. Conversation meandered. Finn's divorce 2 years back, a marriage that looked right, but felt like sand. Zion's string of almost in Seattle, dates that fizzled into friendship. You ever think about staying? Finn asked, voice casual but eyes intent. Zion traced the glass's rim. Used to run from here, now, feels like it's running toward me. Finn's hand brushed his knee, accidental on purpose, sending a spark up Zion's spine. Good. Haven needs its ghosts redeemed. The air thickened, charged, and when Finn leaned in, Zion met him halfway. The kiss salt-tinged, tentative then fierce, a release of years pent up. They broke apart breathless, foreheads touching. This okay? Finn murmured, thumb stroking Zion's jaw. More than, Zion replied, heart hammering. But as they tangled closer, the letter's echo intruded. Love as you are. For the first time, Zion Zioneved it, not just for Amos but for himself. The night deepened, Haven Point's lights winking like conspirators, and Zion let go, falling into something real amid the ruins of what had been. Yet dawn brought reckoning. Carter's truck roared up the drive at 6, gravel spitting, Dylan trailing with weary eyes. They burst into the cottage, Carter waving papers like flags of war. Lawyer says the will stands. That deed? Forged or some bullshit loophole? We're contesting everything. Zion, still rumpled from Finn's borrowed blanket, faced them in the kitchen, coffee steaming untouched. It's not about the mill anymore. It's about honoring him, us. Carter's face twisted, a mask of hurt beneath the bluster. Honoring? You waltz in after years away, wave a fairy tale, and take what's ours? Grandpa raised us, Zion. Bathed us, taught us. You were the one who left. The words landed like punches, true in their venom. Dylan stepped between, voice cracking. Carter, stop. I read the letters last night. All of them. Grandpa. He loved Jonah like we love our lives. Hiding it broke him. And Zion? He's the only one who gets that. Carter deflated, shoulders slumping, the fight leaching out. What if it's true? What does that make us? The normal ones who got played. Zion crossed to him, hand on his arm. It makes us family. Messy but real. Keep the cottage if you want. Share the mill. But let me have the truth. Tears streaked Carter's face, mirroring Zion's own. Marjorie arrived then, drawn by the raised voices, and enveloped them all in a hug that smelled of lavender and loss. Amos would hate this bickering. He wanted you boys whole. By noon, a fragile pact formed. Lawyers on standby, but hearts cracking open. Zion slipped away to meet Finn at the cove, the path clearer now, brambles tamed. They walked in companionable silence, hands brushing, until the sea opened before them, waves gnashing against rocks like old grudges. Told the twins, Zion said finally, about the letter, about us. Finn stopped, turning him gently. And they're scared, but listening. Finn's smile was sunrise. That's more than most get. They kissed there, with the Atlantic as witness, and Zion felt the tide turn. Not just for Amos, but for the life unfurling ahead. Weeks blurred into the salt-streaked rhythm of Haven Point. Each day a negotiation between past and possibility. The mill's fate hung in limbo, lawyers trading emails like cautious chess moves, but Zion threw himself into its guts. Oiling rusted gears, sketching plans for a co-op that blended Amos's legacy with community hands. Finn was there most days, his sketches evolving into murals for the walls. Scenes of hidden lovers in moonlit coves, subtle nods to Jonah's ghost. Their nights wove deeper. Tangled sheets in Finn's loft above the gallery, whispers of futures over dawn coffee. The slow build of trust that Zion had long forgotten how to crave. But under it all simmered the twins' unease, a undercurrent pulling at the seams. Carter thawed slowest, his barbs softening to grunts, then questions over chowder at the Anchor pub. So, this Jonah guy? Grandpa's letters, they mentioned dances in Boston? Zion nodded, passing the breadbasket. Smoke-filled halls, men in suits pretending it was just friendship. Risky as hell back then. Carter chewed thoughtfully, his wife Lena at his side, her hand on his knee a quiet anchor. Makes you think. Our dad always said Grandpa was distant after the war. Guess he carried that weight alone. Dylan, ever the bridge, leaned in. We're selling a plot of the land, splitting proceeds. But the mill? Yours to run, Zion. If you want it. The offer landed soft, a olive branch wrapped in concession, and Zion accepted with a nod, the weight lifting like fog at noon. Aunt Marjorie became an unlikely ally, rifling through Amos's attic for more letters, her discoveries pieced into evenings by the fire. One night, she unearthed a photo. Young Amos, arms slung around a dark-haired man in naval blues, both grinning against a Portland skyline. Jonah Ellis, she breathed, tracing the frame. Zion, he looks like you. A bit. The resemblance struck like lightning. The same hazel tilt, the quiet intensity. Zion's fingers trembled. Grandpa saw that. Said I reminded him of someone once. Finn, curled beside him on the rug, squeezed his hand. Fate's got a sense of humor. But humor couldn't mask the ache. Zion dreamed that week of coves and farewells, waking with salt on his cheeks. The town's whispers started subtle. Sidelong glances at the mill, murmurs in the co-op line about Hawthorne boys airing laundry. Haven Point thrived on gossip, its insularity a double-edged net, and Zion braced for the backlash. It came at the autumn fair, amid hay bales and pumpkin spice haze. He and Finn manned a booth for the mill's first artisanal flower samples, their shoulders brushing in easy sync. Mrs. Hargrove, the librarian who'd shushed Zion teenage whispers, approached with a tight smile. Heard about Amos's inclinations. Shame on a good man. Finn stiffened, but Zion met her eyes steady. Shame? He lived true in shadows we can't imagine. That's honor, Mrs. H. She flushed, retreating, but the seed was sown. Conversations hushed when they passed, invitations drying up. Carter caught wind at the pub that night, slamming his pint down. They're calling you the queer heir, Zion. Like it's a joke. Dylan winced, but Zion laughed. Sharp. Let M. Better than being the invisible one. Finn, nursing a soda, added quiet. Town'll come around. Or not. But you've got us. The word bloomed warm, and later, in the truck's cab en route to the cottage, Zion pulled Finn close at a stoplight, kissing him fierce against the dashboard glow. Love this, he murmured. You, here. Finn's response was a grin, hand sliding under Zion's shirt. Good, 'cause I'm not letting go. But betrayal brewed in unexpected quarters. Dylan confessed over breakfast a week later, face ashen. Carter's been talking to developers behind your back. Wants to flip the mill quick. Cut you out with some clause about family consensus. Zion's stomach dropped, the rye toast turning to ash. After everything? Dylan nodded, guilt etching lines. He's scared, Zion, of change. Of what it says about us, all of us, being part of this. The twins' normalcy, once a shield, now cracked under the mirror Amos held up. Zion stormed to Carter's site, the half-built deck for his new home overlooking the harbor. What the hell, man? We had a deal. Carter turned, hammer mid-swing, sweat beading on his brow. Deal? This is business, Zion. The town's changing, tourists want lofts, not flour. And frankly, I don't want my name tied to whatever scandal you're digging up. The words hung, ugly, and Zion saw it then. Not just greed, but fear. The twins' armor buckling under the weight of their grandfather's truth. Scandal? That's Grandpa you're burying. And me, by extension. Carter dropped the hammer, voice breaking. I'm sorry. God, I'm sorry. It's just, Lena's pregnant. We need the cash. And I need to feel like the good son. The one who didn't disappoint. Zion anger fractured, revealing the shared wound. He clapped Carter's shoulder, rough. You're not a disappointment. None of us are. But fight fair or don't fight at all. The confrontation rippled, forcing a family summit at the cottage. Lawyers banished for raw talk. Marjorie mediated, her voice steady as she read Jonah's last letter aloud. If I don't come back, remember us not as tragedy, but triumph. Tears flowed free, Carter's wrenching. Dylan's quiet, Zion mingled with release. We'll run the mill together, Carter rasped finally. Co-op, like you said, but no more secrets. The pact sealed with handshakes, the Hawthorne name reforged in vulnerability. As winter edged in, frost silvering the marshes, Zion and Finn's bond deepened roots. They carved a routine. Mornings at the mill, blending flour with Finn's herbal infusions for specialty blends. Evenings sketching by the fire, Zion amateur lines capturing Finn's profile in soft graphite. One night, snow flurrying outside, Finn knelt by the hearth, box in hand. A carved whale's tail, echoing Amos's chest. Not proposing yet, he said, eyes alight, but thinking ahead. With you. Zion pulled him up, kissing away doubts. Yes, to all of it. Haven Point watched, grudgingly warming. A booth at the fair sold out, Mrs. Hargrove returning a book with a nod, whispers turning to welcomes. Yet the past wasn't done whispering. A package arrived from Boston, a cousin of Jonah's, enclosing faded tapes. Amos and Jonah's voices, crackling with youth, planning a life beyond shadows. Zion played them on the widow's walk, Finn's arm around him, the sea a chorus below. We build on this, Zion vowed. No hiding. The message settled deep. Compassion for the hidden, freedom in the open, identity as the truest inheritance. Spring unfurled in Haven Point like a hesitant promise, greening the bluffs and coaxing lilacs from cracked soil. The mill hummed again, not with Amos's solitary grind but a chorus. Locals grinding grain for craft beers, artists bartering sketches for sacks, the twins' crews retrofitting lofts without erasing history. Zion moved into the seaside cottage full-time, Finn trailing with easels and that easy laugh, their life a canvas of shared strokes. Mornings began with coffee on the porch, watching lobster boats slice dawn, evenings with bonfires where stories spilled like sparks. Amos's, Jonah's, now theirs. Carter's son arrived in May, a squalling bundle named Amos Carter Hawthorne, and the baptism at the chapel felt like redemption. Zion holding the candle steady, Dylan grinning through tears, the town gathered not in judgment but quiet witness. But peace, Zion learned, was a tide, ebbing to reveal sharp rocks. It started with a letter from Seattle, forwarded from his old loft. An ex, Marcus, spilling bile in ink. Heard you're playing house in Podunk, Maine. Careful, small towns eat queers alive. The words clawed old insecurities, and Zion crumpled it. But the poison lingered. That night, as Finn sketched by lamplight, Zion paced. What if this is a phase? Hiding in nostalgia, not building real. Finn set pencil down, pulling him onto the rug. Real's what we make. You, me, this mess. It's ours. They made love slow, desionberate, erasing doubts with touch. But Zion woke hollow, the letters echo gnawing. The twins sensed the shift. Dylan cornered him at the mill, Flour dusting his apron from a test batch. Carter mentioned you seem off. Everything good with Finn? Zion hesitated, then spilled. Marcus's venom. The creeping fear that Haven's embrace was illusion. Dylan nodded, wiping hands. Fear's the real ghost. Grandpa fought it his whole life. Don't let it win. Wise words from the once golden twin, and Zion clung to them, inviting Finn to a cove picnic where they buried the letter under stones. A ritual of release. To new currents, Finn toasted with cider, and Zion be Zioneved. The seas roar, drowning old waves. Summer swelled, bringing tourists in pastel convertibles, the harbor alive with sails. The gallery thrived, Finn's Jonah-inspired series, shadows on the tide drawing collectors from Portland, whispers of a Boston show. Zion role evolved. Not just Miller, but storyteller, hosting tours laced with Amos's history. The hidden love woven gentle, met with nods more than shock. One evening, a young couple, hands laced, rainbow pins glinting, thanked him tear-streaked. Makes us feel seen, the man said. Zion hugged them fierce. That's the point. Betrayal struck from within, swift as a squall. Carter, flush from the baby's joy, confessed over beers at the pub. He'd leaked a sanitized version of the letters to a developer buddy, hoping to leverage for a side deal on Marshland. Thought it'd scare you off, keep things simple, he admitted, eyes downcast. But it backfired. Guy pulled out, called it cursed property. Zion world tilted, trust fracturing anew. You sold us out. Again. Carter's plea tumbled. Pressure from Lena's family, whispers of tainted legacy. His own buried shame at not being enough. Dylan arrived mid-rant, face thunderous. I knew. Should have told you sooner. The twins' unity splintered fully, accusations flying, and Zion walked out, rain lashing his face, straight to Finn's loft. Finn held him through the storm, no questions, just presence. Family's not blood, it's choice, he murmured, fingers tracing Zion's spine. Dawn brought clarity. A meeting at the cottage, Marjorie's pie cooling on the sill like truce flag. Zion laid it bare. This ends now. Or we do. Carter broke first, sobbing apologies. The baby's photo clutched like shield. I was wrong. Terrified of losing the name, the us. Dylan echoed, vowing mediation. Forgiveness didn't come easy, a jagged fit, but Zion extended the hand, pulling them into a huddle that echoed boyhood forts. We're hawthorns, bent, but unbreakable. The high tide of summer crested at the solstice bonfire, Haven's tradition on the bluffs. Flames leaped high, faces gilded, fiddles keening sea shanties. Zion and Finn danced slow in the shadows, bodies sinking like waves. Carter approached, baby in arms, Lena beaming. To Amos, he toasted, and the circle widened, stories shared. Jonah's laugh from tapes, Amos's secret smiles. Mrs. Hargrove even joined, admitting, I was blind. Now I see. The night spun magic, stars Zion, and Zion felt the arc bend toward light. Fall whispered in with amber leaves, the mill's harvest festival a triumph. Bread baked fresh, ale flowing, laughter echoing off beams. Zion spoke brief, voice steady. Grandpa left us more than land. He left love, fierce, flawed, free. Cheers rose, genuine, and Finn's kiss later, under harvest moon, sealed it. Betrayals mended, not erased, into stronger weave. As snow dusted first, Zion traced the cottage's beams, Finn's head on his shoulder. This is home, he said. Finn nodded. Ours to shape. The message lingered. Compassion heals fractures. Freedom blooms in truth. Identity the anchor holding all. Winter clamped Haven Point in ice. The harbor frozen fringes like lace on slate. Winds howling elegies through bare oaks. The mill idled, its stone walls a sanctuary for planning. Zion and the twins sketching expansions, community input scribbled on butcher paper. Solar panels for sustainability. A Jonah Ellis memorial garden with wild roses and reading nooks. Finn's Boston exhibit loomed, nerves fraying his usual calm, and Zion countered with drives to Portland for supplies. Stolen hours in anonymous cafes where they could be just two men. Hands across Formica, dreaming unfiltered. After the show, Finn said one night, snow tapping windows like impatient fingers. We road tripped the coast. You, me, no ghosts. Zion grinned, pulling him close. Deal, but pack the rye. The idol cracked with a phone call from Aunt Marjorie. Voice quavering over static. Zion, it's the attic, flooded from a leak. Letters. Some are ruined. He raced back, heart in throat, finding her knee-deep in damp boxes, salvaging what she could. The loss gutted, Jonah's final missive, water-blurred to illegible pleas. I'm sorry, she wept, and Zion held her. The grief shared now, a bridge over their own divides. Carter and Dylan arrived, hands blistered from hauling, and in the chaos, old rhythms resurfaced. The twins teasing Zion's city-soft muscles, laughter bubbling amid ruin. By evening, sodden pages spread like wings to dry, survivors telling fragmented tales. Of a proposal in Paris fog, a ring pawned for war bonds. He kept going, Zion marveled, tracing ink runs like veins. For love. Spring's thaw brought renewal, but also reckoning's shadow. A journalist from Portland sniffed the story, Hidden Hearts of Haven, and Zion, wary, granted an interview at the gallery, Finn hovering protective. The piece ran gentle, but ripples spread. National blogs picking it up, strangers emailing testimonies of their own buried Amoses. Pride swelled, yet so did strain. Carter fielding calls from investors eyeing heritage tourism. Dylan withdrawing into sketches of his own, quiet sketches of family silhouettes. It's too much, he confessed one hike, boots crunching crust. The spotlight makes me feel exposed, like I'm next to crack. Zion clapped his back. Then stepped back. We're not performing. We're living. Finn's exhibit opened in June, Boston's galleries buzzing with coastal Zion. Zion flew down, suit crisp, heart raw, standing sentinel as crowds milled Jonah's shades in oil. It's you, a critic murmured to Finn. But braver. Sails poured, but Finn's eyes sought Zion across the room, anchoring. Back in Haven, they celebrated on the Widow's Walk, champagne fizzing under stars. Proud, Zion said, nuzzling his neck. Of us. Finn's response was slow, deepening kisses that led to the rug, bodies mapping promises. But midsummer, betrayal's echo resounded. Lena, Carter's wife, confided tearfully. Carter had entertained a buyout offer in secret, tempted by promises of normalcy funds for the baby. He loves you, she insisted. But doubt's a devil. Zion confronted him at dawn on the bluffs, waves gnashing below. Again? When does it stop? Carter's face crumpled, wind-tossed hair wild. It stops when I forgive myself for not being like you, bold in it. The admission hung, raw, and Zion saw the mirror. Both grandsons wrestling Amos's legacy, one in shadows, one in light. You're bold enough, Zion said, pulling him into a rough embrace. Teach the kid that. Carter nodded, vows renewed, and the offer shredded that week. The family co-op charter signed with fanfare at the mill. High summer peaked in heat haze, the town festival a kaleidoscope. Fireworks bursting over the harbor, Amos's decoys raffled for charity, Zion and Finn leading a torchlit walk to the cove, sharing edited letters by Furzyonct. Strangers and kin mingled, stories crossing like threads. A father's coming out, a grandmother's quiet allyship. Carter held his son high, naming him storyteller in a toast. Dylan unveiling a mural of intertwined waves. Zion, arm around Finn, felt the climax crest. Not grand gestures, but this quiet revolution of hearts. As leaves turned, Zion proposed on bended knee in Blackthorn Cove. Ring simple, silver wave etched with unapologetic. Finn's yes a whisper lost in surf. The wedding brewed for spring, Haven abuzz. Betrayals, once barbs, now scars that strengthened. Conflicts forged deeper bonds. Grandpa's final letter, framed on the mantel, watched over. Love as you are. The message etched eternal. Track and mends the broken. Two do the soul's true north. Ransack the light that guides home. Autumn's palette bled gold and crimson across Haven Point. The air crisp with cider and change. Wedding plans wove through mill days. Dylan officiating, vows penned in tandem. Carter building an arbor from reclaimed beams. Lena stitching quilts from Amos's old shirts. Finn's hands, paint-flecked, traced invitations. His laugh freer now. Boston's success a buoy not burden. Zion woke some nights to dreams of letters dissolving in floods. Jolting awake to Finn's steady breath. Grounding him. We're solid. Finn murmured those times, fingers interlacing. Tide comes, we rise. Winter's grip loosened early, crocuses defying frost, and the ceremony bloomed on a bluffside clearing. Sea vista infinite. 50 souls gathered, townies in wildflowers, Marjorie dabbing eyes, the twins flanking Zion in linen suits, baby Amos gurgling ringside. Finn walked the path alone, eyes locked on Zion, the fiddler reel swelling like heartbeats. Vows spilled honest. Zion of hidden coves revealed, fins of anchors in storms. I choose you, they echoed. Rings exchanged to cheers, the kiss salt-kissed by wind. The reception spilled to the beach, bonfire roaring, dances barefoot in sand. Carter twirling Lena, Dylan partnering a blushing baker, even Mrs. Hargrove swaying with her widow's grace. Honeymoon called them south, a coastal crawl through Carolina's marshes. But Haven pulled insistent. Back, they settled into the cottage's rhythm, expansions breaking ground. The garden's roses nodding to Jonah, a loft for artists in residence. Zion taught workshops, milling as metaphor for grinding truth smooth, while Finn mentored youth, charcoals coaxing out hidden selves. Carter's family grew, visits frequent, the boy toddling after Zion with unabashed adoration. Uncle Ghost, he babbled once, and laughter healed old ghosts. Yet life's undercurrent stirred. A developer returned, sly with offshore money, whispering to Carter anew. Preserve the queer angle, market it authentic. Carter rebuffed, but doubt flickered, confessed in a late-night call. It tempts Zion. Easy out. Zion drove over, finding him on the deck, stars pricking sky. Easy's the cage Grandpa escaped. Choose hard with us. Carter's nod was steel. The offer ghosted. Family tighter in resolve. Spring's full bloom heralded deeper joys. Finn's first solo show in New York. Zion closing the mill for a week to stand beside. Galleries humming with recognition. Back home, they adopted a stray pup, ragged mutt named Tide, its loyalty a mirror to their own. Summers cycled, festivals evolving. The Jonah Walk now annual, torches lighting paths to acceptance talks, Haven's youth leading. Zion book brewed, letters transcribed into narrative, tides of truth, Finn illustrating covers with wave-wrapped hearts. Years layered like patina. Carter's second child, a girl with Dylan's quiet gaze. Marjorie's retirement to Florida, but visits laden with tales. The mill a hub, exporting flowers to coasts, profits shared equitable. Betrayals faded to footnotes, conflicts to council fires that warmed. Zion and Finn, gray threading temples, walked the cove at dawn, hands clasped, pup bounding ahead. He'd be proud, Zion said once of Amos. Finn squeezed. Of all. The end came gentle for the old house. A gale in late fall, roof caving, but they rebuilt, beams from the mill's heart. In the new study, Zion penned final notes, the pocket watch ticking on desk. Grandpa's voice echoed in wind. Yours always. Haven Point endured, changed, compassion its new currency, freedom its breeze, Ransack its enduring shore. Love, proved in letters and lives, outlasted all.